So here we all were, really hoping to see a nice bit of trouser stirring flagship phone action in the big Nokia launch yesterday, and sadly while there was no Nokia 9 series smartphones in sight, we did get our first glimpse of the new Nokia 8.3 5G. This new 8 series handset is a bloody behemoth at a whopping 6.81 inches, serving up always-on HDR visuals, some fresh Zeiss optics, and as the name kind of implies, full 5G support. The Nokia 8.3 5G will be coming this summer, bit vague there unfortunately, for the price tag of €599. You can expect it to be sort of just over 500 quid probably here in the UK, which of course will make it one of the most affordable 5G phones that you'll be able to buy. And sadly I haven't been hands-on with the new Nokia 8.3 5G because of all this plaguey rubbish that's going on in the world, but hopefully we'll be bringing you a full review soon, and in the meantime, sadly here's just a closer look at all of those specs and the best features so you know what to expect when it does hit at some point in 2020. So first up, the Nokia 8.3 5G will only be available in a single hue, this lovely deep blue colour, which is apparently inspired by the polar lights. Definitely reminds me of some recent Honor smartphones, and it certainly looks sleek. We were given an introduction to the Nokia 8.3 5G's aesthetics by HMD Global's head of design Ron Forsyth, who seemed to be channeling Johnny Ive during his little bit.
We call this living colour. It's simply a celebration of light and the way it dynamically reflects and refracts through and off materials, amplifying their natural inherent beauty.
Mumbo jumbo aside, what you get is an aluminium frame made from 100% recyclable materials with a nice bit of Gorilla Glass sandwiched on the top and bottom layer as well, although I'm not sure which version of Gorilla Glass that is. And at 220 grams, the Nokia 8.3 5G should definitely be a bit of a hefty bugger as well. There's an edge-mounted fingerprint sensor which is integrated into the power button, so you don't get any dodgy in-screen effort like we had on the Nokia 9 PureView, while you also get full support for Face Unlock as well. There's also room on the opposite edge for a dedicated Google Assistant button, and yes, there is indeed a headphone jack housed on that bottom edge, glory be. As with the other Nokia branded handsets launched yesterday, the Nokia 8.3 5G will be running full Android 10 OS straight out of the box, and it'll be a nice pure version of it as well, no tinkering or tweaking by HMD Global. The great news is, as usual as well, you get 2 dedicated years of OS updates. That means it'll get updated to Android 11 later in 2020 and then Android 12 next year, and you also get 3 years of monthly security updates too, so hopefully this thing should be good for the long haul. Oh, and yes, there is of course full NFC support as well, as you would kind of expect. As for that whopper of a screen, well, it is a 6.81 inch pure display panel with IPS tech, and it's got full HD resolution, that's 2400 by 1080 pixels. So despite that gigantic size, hopefully your visuals should come through nice and crisp as well. And as far as the selfie camera goes, it's just a dinky little pinhole affair wedged away in one corner, so hopefully it shouldn't prove too intrusive at all. And one of the advantages of this pure display panel is the fact that it has always-on HDR. This can display up to 1 billion shades of colour, and it dynamically enhances the contrast and the colours to improve your visuals no matter what you are watching. Crammed inside is the fresh Qualcomm Snapdragon 765G chipset launched at the arse end of 2019. This has a 5G modem actually built in, which HMD is of course making full use of. In fact, the Nokia 8.3 5G apparently supports a huge number of bands, more than many rivals, for true global coverage. Good news for roamers. And that Snapdragon 765G platform also supports clever AI shenanigans and some impressive gaming features too, as I pointed out in my All You Need to Know video on this chipset from Qualcomm's launch. So definitely go check out that video for all you need to know about this platform and the kind of smarts you can really expect from the Nokia 8.3. And in the smartphone, it is backed by either 6 or 8 gigs of RAM depending on which model you go for, so it should be absolutely fine for gaming on the go and everything else you throw at it. And the Nokia 8.3 5G is powered by a 4500 mAh battery, good size there, definitely, and combined with a pure Android experience, it'll hopefully get between 1.5 days and 2 days of life between charges. And depending on which model you plump for, you'll get either 64 or 128 gigabytes of storage, although that is expandable by microSD memory card up to a further 400 gigabytes, so plenty of room on there. And there is support for dual SIM on the Nokia 8.3 5G, but unfortunately that second SIM slot is also used by the microSD memory cards. You've either got to go dual SIM or single SIM and microSD. Now on the back end of the Nokia 8.3 5G, you'll find some Zeiss branded optics with a few interesting new features that we weren't expecting. This is a quad lens setup, so you get a 64 megapixel primary lens with an f1.89 aperture, and that's backed by a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle lens, a 2 megapixel macro lens, and a 2 megapixel depth sensor for your portrait shots. Now, ultra-wide angle lens apparently sports a sensor with much larger pixels for improved low-light photos, while also boasting 4K HDR video capture. There's also an action cam mode, which is basically like the super steady mode you'll find on the likes of the Samsung Galaxy S20 smartphones. This just makes nice smooth footage even when you're moving about the place, and apparently that's supported at full HD resolution at up to 60 frames per second. Now, one of the more interesting camera features found on the Nokia 8.3 is the Zeiss Cinema Capture tool. This basically sounds like a simpler version of the Cinema Pro feature found on recent Sony Xperias. What this allows you to do is shoot video at a 21:9 cinematic aspect ratio, and it also gives you a couple of cinematic effects as well, anamorphic or blue flare. Once you finish shooting your video, you can trim and edit the videos right there on the Nokia 8.3 5G as well, before sharing them with the world via a bit of 5G, of course. And rounding off the camera specs is a 24 megapixel selfie cam in that pinhole housing. Now, of course, I haven't had a chance to test out any of this camera tech or anything else on the Nokia 8.3 5G because it was just an online virtual launch. Hoping really soon though to get my hands on a proper device to go full hands on, and as I say, it should be coming summer 2020, so hopefully get a full review in the bag before then. So are you tempted by the Nokia 8.3 5G? Be great to hear your thoughts down below. Certainly some pretty decent specs for that £500 price point, although of course you can get some great smartphones for around that price point which have the very latest 800 series Snapdragon chipset packed in there as well, and some pretty damn good camera smarts and all the rest too. So I guess it kind of depends on whether you're really sold on that 5G support. But anyway, it'd be great to hear your own thoughts, so definitely slap those down in the comments below. Please do poke, subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest mobile tech. Check out my other Nokia videos for everything else that HMD launched yesterday. Cheers everyone, love you!